55-foot longliner Eastern Harvester, being launched last Christmas at Arthur Petton's boatyard in South River. Boats fully rigged like this one can now cost close to $500,000, and fishermen are saying that's too much money for a wooden boat. But high cost hasn't always been the main problem for our fishermen. For almost a decade, our inshore seining, dragging and crabbing fleet has been going to sea in vessels that weren't designed for those fisheries. But now that's changed. Owner Charles Hussey of Portagrave.
That's what I wanted, you know, that galley on deck, living quarters on deck and sleeping quarters on the forward. The other boats I've had have been right reversed, see. So the engines have a forward in this boat and a carrying space is in the middle of her, see. So instead of her loading by the stern, she'll load right along, or we open to anyway.
It's May 1st of last spring, and the Kennedy brothers of Hibbs Cove are about to launch their 55-footer, the Beulah Land. Many Conception Bay fishermen were already calling her one of the finest vessels ever built in that bay. There's no discounting she's a fine boat, but what attracted most people to her was that she was designed and built by the fishermen who would sail in her. But that process is becoming a thing of the past. The vast majority of longliners built in Newfoundland are now built by shipyards, like Henry Vokey's here in Trinity. The Sea Voyager was built for Montrose Genge of Anchor Point, and the Cape Ray II for Rufus Genge of Cook's Harbour. Henry Vokey's boatyard always attracts a good crowd at his boat launches, for he takes as much pride with his launch as he does with his boat building. The cost of boats has become a controversial issue in Newfoundland, but at launch time, all that's forgotten, and people of all ages come to Trinity to share in the anticipation and the excitement. It's a proud moment for Montrose Genge, who's about to take possession of a 65-footer, the largest length vessel permitted to fish our inshore waters. But it's an even prouder moment for his father, as he christens the Sea Voyager. Each year, the cost of a longliner in Newfoundland takes a big jump. Just 6 years ago, this vessel would have cost $250,000, and people wondered then how it would be paid for. Today, this one costs around $700,000, and the same question gets asked.
Yes, boys, a lot of money invested in one of them. That's going to cost us about $700,000 now, insurance, everything. There's a big chance to take, but I'd rather be taking the chance and just coming over and getting one started now, like a 38-footer or something like that. It's no good for this day and age.
For Northwest Coast fishermen, this day and age means dragging in the Straits of Belle Isle. Rufus Genge, skipper of the Cape Ray II, is also concerned about his high vessel cost, but he and his family also know about high vessel landings. $200,000 worth of fish will very likely be caught by this vessel in its first season. The Avalon Harvester, owned by Orman Whalen and captained by his son Bob Whalen of Beulah Land. This 65-footer is the largest inshore fishing vessel ever constructed in Newfoundland. In recent years, fishermen and boat builders have fought constantly with government planners to get boats built that are more suited to a particular fishery. Owner Orman Whalen.
I think we won't have any problem with this one, with our carrying capacity or stability, the same as we did with the 58. We had quite a lot of trouble with her, you know, the boat. We were doing more work with it and more of the heavy work that the boat just couldn't take it. So I think we got something there right now could take care of our problems, and we're quite happy.
And so, with the long hours of planning, changing proposals, and altering designs behind them, one mammoth task remains: to free this giant wooden vessel from the land. Although it's still early spring, there's no shortage of butterflies around here. Orman's wife and his two sons, who will also be working on the boat, are excited, but they're also concerned. On the first 4 attempts, this weighty vessel hasn't budged. But then,
Here's the picture. I saw sure going to go. Let it go. Hold on, just not. You're throwing that anyway.
Great job, eh, Orman? Great job, eh?
Yeah, nice going out.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
The champagne never broke.
Ah, that's all right. The boat made it, though.
Oh, yes. Butterflies are going.
Yeah.
the Avalon Harvester and the other vessels we saw earlier represent some of the finest wooden vessels constructed in Newfoundland. But has our wooden boat building industry grown to keep pace with our ever-expanding fishery? It's no secret that the owner of the Avalon Harvester and other Newfoundland fishermen wanted to get their boats built out of steel. Unfortunately, Newfoundland has been sadly lacking and lagged behind most areas of the world in this development. Beulah, Alabama is the largest center for steel boat building in North America. Here they build boats bigger than ours, less expensive than ours, and some say even better than ours. Steel boat building has been thriving in this area since the mid-60s. The steel boat building industry can be tied directly to the expansion of the steel fabricating business, which started booming then because of offshore oil. These shrimp draggers are in the 70 to 80 foot range. It's a design and length of boat that has evolved between boat builder and fisherman over the years. Unfortunately, in Newfoundland, this normal evolution has been cramped by our now outdated 65-foot limit on inshore fishing vessels.
I don't think there's over 3 wooden boat builders in the Gulf of Mexico left today. They're either fiberglass or they're steel.
In the southern United States, the lack of government restrictions has also meant a tremendous expansion in the steel boat building industry, based, quite simply, on the market for boats. Dayton Graham, owner of Deep Sea Marine.
I had the first steel boat in Beulah Land in the fishing business. And of course, the theory was back then it would never float when it hit the water, you know, because it's steel. You don't see a piece of steel floating, you know. Well, we've grown from that stage. We have tried to develop a boat that fits a broad market from the Gulf of Mexico to Maine or to Alaska, either way, that has a lot of capability of doing and fitting different types of fisheries. So you see the hull like we have up here. That hull is capable of shrimping. That hull with minor modification is capable of scalloping or ground fishing or long lining. Any of those fisheries is capable of doing. This boat, the back hull you see here is going to be a shrimper. The same hull up here is going to be a ground fish scalloper. To long line it would be no problem at all. So we've tried to develop a hull, and we've set on a certain size boat we feel like that does this and fits a broad resale market. And that's the 86 by 24 foot by 13 foot deep hull. And this hull is capable of taking from 450 horsepower up to 700 horsepower on a cart nozzle. And all of our dragging boats has cart nozzles.
The quart nozzle is a circular sleeve or jacket that goes around the outside of the propeller. Once the nozzle is mounted around the propeller, it has the effect of giving the propeller greater thrust and the boat greater fuel efficiency. Although they're used in some of Newfoundland's larger deep-sea vessels, they're still unheard of with our inshore draggers. As fuel costs rise, this is a development we can no longer ignore.
Basically, we use what we call a transverse frame boat. And in that, the frame basically is a 3/4 by 5/16 steel angle, okay, which creates the frame of the boat. Then the outer shell plate, basically we're using in our area for the Gulf of Mexico 5/16 on the sides and the bottom, and 1/4 inch on deck. And the structure of the performance of this boat has proven itself wherever it's gone to be acceptable. Stability-wise, strength-wise in a seaway. And don't get me wrong, there are some things that you can do and that you should not do that are being done in some areas of the boat construction in the Gulf of Mexico, which does give us a bad name. But when you take and you know, if you follow the proper welding technique, gouge, you know, you weld the inside 100%, and you gouge the outside and weld the outside. And you make sure you got top performance on your frames and tying that steel plate. You're gusseting the frames wherever you cut them with gusset plates. You do these things, and you know that they're done right, and you hadn't shirked that responsibility. Steel works beautifully.
In Canada, we have a lot of government regulations telling boats about stability tests and all this sort of thing. The size of vessel you're building here, do you think that things like that are necessary?
I think that, in due respect to that situation in Canada, as I see, y'all do probably fight a weather situation, which is probably more severe than what we have. I think everything evolves in a particular area because of the environment of that area, whether it's the way we're building here or where y'all building up there. See, I know that there's a cost of boats up there that we couldn't live with down here. That I know. And I don't know if that's exactly what is causing your cost increase or whether it's labor or whatever it is. But I know here we don't have any regulation as far as the building of this type of boat. But basically, we don't have to have this vessel inspected to put it to sea.
The regulation here seems to be if the fisherman can afford it and he can catch fish with it, he'll buy it and the business will generate from that.
That's the only thing that's regulated. It's the economic regulation. Can you put the package together and do you have the track record of building a boat that's acceptable, that does a good job? That's the regulation.
Because of intense competition between yards, the steel boat building industry in the southern U.S. can and does build boats at a lower cost than ours. Some estimate as high as 50%. Newfoundlanders could one time proudly say to the world that our fishermen were going to sea in some of the finest vessels afloat. Unfortunately, the expansion of our longliner fleet hasn't kept abreast of many of these changes, as did the southern United States boat building industry.
I don't think there's over 3 wooden boat builders in the Gulf of Mexico left today. They're either fiberglass or they're steel. Not only that, the ability to get woodworkers, you know, the trade, the artists, is just not available anymore. They're died. They did not renew. Everybody went to welding and burning, you know, steel handling. And so the expertise were lost. Not only that, the speed that it takes, you know, to really build a top-notch wooden boat, you know, you just don't, it's just more time involved with that than it is with steel. You can do it with a lesser class expertise person is what I'm trying to say. I mean, a guy can be a good welder at 25, but how long would it take to make a master carpenter? Okay? That's the difference.
In recent years, a number of fishermen have inquired about importing boats from the United States. Government officials have stated on a number of occasions that these vessels are not suited for our northern waters and probably couldn't take our harsh weather conditions. The Sea Lion 3 is a sword fishing boat from Gloucester. Last spring and summer, she fished on our Grand Banks. There are many used vessels of this caliber in the United States for sale. Unfortunately, our local government has discouraged fishermen from getting into these types of vessels in its effort to protect our local boat building industry. While in St. John's Harbour on refit, Rick Howarth of Rockport, Maine, took time out to explain some of the aspects of these southern-built vessels.
My boat's for Miss Penny. She was built down in Florida by a company called Eastern Marine. And the Sea Lion 3, he's built in the same place, built for sword fishing, but she has a stern ramp in it to go trawling in the winter if she wants to up north. So she's capable of fishing anywhere, any weather, anywhere. My boat's 68 feet. Right now she's valued at about $400,000. She's 2 years old, and with the inflation and stuff, she costs about $289,000 without the gear, and there's about $70,000 a gear on there. And the Sea Lion 3, he's 74 feet, and it's $700,000 for that. And we go all the way from Mexico up to here with the boats. We put them through all kinds of weather. We stay out for 3 weeks, 30, 40-foot seas. I've been up in here. Never have much problems with the boat handling it. You know, she rolls around and stuff. We've iced up, no problem. And I just say she's a well-built boat. You know, she doesn't vibrate. She's got good welds on her. And she's just well-built for a southern boat. My whole crew is fished on small boats, Nova Scotian boats. And every one of them tell you right now they wouldn't get on a small boat or they wouldn't get on a wooden boat. They would strictly steel.
Now, Rick, there has been some problems with boats built in different parts of the U.S. I've read reports about a couple going down off your area, and you hear of them in Alaska. It's not all good news with steel boats, though, is it?
Well, I think some of those yards, you pay for what you get. If you don't want to pay for the money, you don't want to put the money out for a well-built boat, you're not going to get a well-built boat. But if you pay a lot of money and you know what you're getting, then I think that's the way it is. There's 2 boats in Gloucester Harbor, where I'm from, and they were both fishing out in the winter in January, and they were about 100 miles offshore, and both of them, they split a seam and went down real fast. And luckily the crews on both boats were saved, but the boats, 1 minute she was up, the next minute she was down. And that's either not from having the boat hauled and having the bottom checked once a year, or it was just a poor welding job, or it could be a lot of things. You know, You know, steel's tough, but the ocean's got a lot of weight and a lot of power. And like any other boat, either you got to keep the maintenance up in it, or you're going to have problems. We fish 300 miles off the coast of Newfoundland right now. And we'll stay out in anything other than a hurricane. We get a hurricane, we'll come in for a hurricane, but other than that, we can fish up to 40, 50 mile an hour winds. And if it gets worse than that, I'll put a sea anchor out and we'll just lay in it. The price of fuel and everything is so high, it costs too much money for me to be running in and out, so once I go out, I stay out.
Now, I've seen these stabilizers before in the Gulf, and there's some question as to whether or not you could even use stabilizers in our sea. Do you use those, and how have you found them?
Well, we use those just as soon as it gets rough out. The only thing it really does is just keeps the boat from rocking fast. Gives you a comfortable ride and lets you get a good night's sleep. We're working 18 to 20 hours a day, so the little sleep that we get, we need. I've never had any problem with the stabilizers. You can bury them right into a sea. Never any problem, as long as they put on the boat right and stayed off right, just as strong as the boat structure itself, and they make quite a bit of difference in the ride. Most of the older men who've been around the water for a long time are buying all new steel boats. We're getting rid of those old wooden boats. They can go further, they can hold more, and they're fishing, they just make more money, and that's the only thing we're fishing for.
While Newfoundland clearly lags behind in the development of new types of fishing vessels, we haven't been out of the picture altogether. Just recently, Cyril Pelly's shipyard in Springdale launched Newfoundland's first steel inshore fishing vessel. The 45-foot longliner Iron Cow is now skippered by Ray Newman of Little Harbour Deep.
Iron Cow, Isabel C. Read now, Ray. Over.
Yeah, that's right. Reading you loud and clear. Over.
How do you like your new boat? Over.
Yeah, we find it all right, boy. We think it's a great boat. Yeah, good boat in rough water.
He's riding it out pretty good here today, over.
How, did she roll very much? Over.
No, yeah, he's not too bad. I guess I don't find her too bad.
We think she's all right, yeah. Yeah. Good boat for Gilligan. Over.
Do you think she's better than the wooden boats? Over.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say, you know. A lot of boats around and different designs, you know. But I'd say this is one of the better ones.
This steel longliner is probably one of the most exciting developments to take place in our boat building industry in years. Designed by John Drover of Springdale, Cyril Pelly's idea of a steel vessel suited specifically for the northeast coast took place without any special aid from government. A government that has procrastinated too long on the development of steel boats, both from the point of building them and importing them.
Does it much lap out there now? Over.
Yeah, there's a very good lap on here, yeah.
Yeah, we got a good breeze wind today. Yeah, the water's down and rough today. Taking it pretty good though. Over.
Right, I got your fine, yeah. You're gonna have a nice punch back, boy. Cardinal lap is over here. So that when you get across on the other side of the bay there, you'll be getting more lunner like. More lunner. Over.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, I like going forward, get a chance to get a cup of tea, you know. I don't imagine like that, Johnny, now. You're blowing wheel for.
That's right, I got your fine, yeah. That'll be all right too, boy. Yeah, you won't. No sense getting a cup of tea now like he's out there now.
This steel boat has some distinct advantages over a wooden vessel of the same size. Its $230,000 price tag is just slightly higher than that of a wooden vessel, yet its carrying capacity is greater, costs less to insure, and can be financed over a longer period of time. And of course, it's better in ice. Winston Churchill was quoted as saying, "Newfoundland is the best small boatman in the world." If our boat building industry modernizes and moves to newer type building materials and techniques, then Churchill's quote might be reworded to say, "Newfoundland has the best small boatman in the world and the best boats."